Back to our conversation concerning this fuel crisis, what would appear to be the shortage of lorry drivers and just how acute it might get. But who better to give us the latest than Conservative MP and Transport Secretary Grant Shapps, who joins me now. It's good to have you on the programme. Your particular vehicle, how much fuel have you got in the tank, Secretary of State? Good morning.
Morning. Well, it's actually electric. So
you're very fortunate.
Yes,
is this another reason to have electric cars?
Well, I come on your programme often to talk about them, and of course we're all going to end up driving electric cars because petrol and diesel vehicles won't be sold after pure petrol and diesel in 8 years' time, after 2030. So we are moving that way, but that won't help for today. So,
no. So what are we going to do? I understand there's a bit of a cabinet discord. George Eustace is suggesting the drivers should be put on the shortage occupation list. Your colleague Kwasi Kwarteng is not so minded. Where are you, Transport Secretary?
Yeah, I think actually there's a bit of confusion. I saw those reports. Actually, I think there may be confusion over the what's called the seasonal workers programme, which enables people to come in and pick fruit and that sort of thing, which I think may have been what George Eustace was referring to. But look, the main thing is there is a global shortage of HGV lorry drivers, not just in the UK, throughout Europe, in America. It's come about because of coronavirus. Specifically, we weren't able to test drivers during coronavirus. What we're doing now is to massively increase the number of tests available. So I've actually gotten to twice the level of weekly tests available to become an HGV driver, and that is the route out of this. We need to make sure more people are on the road able to drive the lorries.
Right. That's going to take time. How attractive a job is lorry driving, do you imagine? We hear of considerable problems trying to get accommodation, being charged quite a lot of money to park your vehicle overnight, and in some instances a desperate shortage of toilet facilities. Secretary of State,
Yep.
We talked about many things, but I didn't think we'd be talking about going to the toilet, but there we are. This is obviously a key need for the men and women doing it.
Yeah, and actually the men, because it's 99% male, 99% white male, average age 55. This is not a diverse sector, and actually it would make a lot of sense to have slightly higher salaries, and that's actually what we're seeing happening now. So the wage is better. It is a skilled job. It is a hard day's work. To have better truck stops, facilities, bring more people in, and that's what we're really doing. We're trying to move heaven and earth to make sure that we can put all of these different pieces in place, and we are now starting to see more people get tested and more people come out on the road and able to drive, even coming back to the sector where they perhaps left it a few years ago.
Noting what you say about seasonal workers, my understanding is that currently ballet dancers are allowed in as required in this country, but lorry drivers are not through this list. Why might that be? Is there a desperate shortage to have ballet and not petrol?
That's not quite right, actually. So foreign lorry drivers drive on our roads all the time, and you'll see that by seeing the license plates. So that's not quite the case. It also happens to be true that 6 million Europeans have settled and pre-settled status, many of whom may well be lorry drivers. We also have a massive pool of hundreds of thousands of Brits who have lorry driving licenses, and they are coming back in. And as I say, the real bottleneck is getting them tested and back on the road. So I don't think it's a shortage of supply necessarily. It's a shortage of people being able to get through the system and out onto the road itself.
But wouldn't it be great? I thought one of the benefits of Brexit was that we would be able to bring in doctors if we needed them, nurses, whatever it might, dentists, I don't know. In this instance, it's hauliers. Can't we just turn on a tap?
Issue with any of that, but be aware there are massive European shortages of, guess what? Hauliers. So in Germany, 60,000 shortage. In Poland, 123,000 shortage. So they already have their own shortages. The other thing that I'm very concerned not to do is exacerbate the situation and make it worse. The reason we've had long-term problems with not enough lorry drivers is that we've been bringing in Eastern European labour who have been doing the job at a lower price. That's meant that a lot of Brits have retired from the job, and it's made the whole process unsustainable. If we just go back to doing that, we don't actually solve anything. In fact, we exacerbate it and potentially make it worse.
What will it take for Operation Escalin, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, to be put into place?
I'm not sure I'm familiar with Operation Escalin.
Operation Escalin, I read in the Times, this is where lorry drivers will be replaced possibly by the military.
Oh, I see. Well, look, as I said,
it's rather worrying. You're the Transport Secretary, Secretary of State, and you don't know the operation that the newspaper does.
Very good. I haven't been referring to any of the measures that we look at under code names. When I do something like double the number of tests available at testing centres, I just get on and do it. I don't bother to.
Well, let's back up. How low would stocks have to be? How many stations would have to close before what I read Operation Eskin, the involvement of the military, would be deemed necessary?
Well, I'll look at all of these things. The military, it could be a wide range of different things, from, of course, helping to test to helping to drive. Right now, I just want to be clear. We are in a situation where, or BP were rather, yesterday, we spoke to them last night, where they said that 5 out of 1,200 forecourts were unable to stay open. So just to put that in proportion, there's plenty of fuel in the refineries. There's no shortage of fuels. It is only the question of the delivery, and it's not a situation, as we've seen in the country before, where the distribution network's on strike or blockaded or anything like that.
But let's get the military in there. Does that, as you rightly say, we've got the fuel, we're just not getting it to the pumps quickly enough. Isn't that marvellous that we can turn to the fantastic military that we have in this country and they can plug the hole? Secretary of State.
No, I certainly won't rule anything out at all. We'll look at all the various different contingency measures. But one of the absolute key things, as I say, to relieve this blockage created by not being able to. When we had the lockdown, we weren't testing any lorry drivers at all. That's what's actually primarily caused the problem, plus the global squeeze, because everyone's gone back to ordering stuff. And so a lot more deliveries being made. And those are the issues that are heart of this. I'll look at doing anything I need to do to fix it.
A couple of other things. There's a jaunty picture of you in the Sun alongside the story that you're looking at axing the PCR tests for vaccinated holiday makers, possibly in time for next month's half-term. Are you able to confirm that, Secretary of State?
Yeah, we do want to move from those PCR tests, which have been very, very expensive, necessary before people were vaccinated. But now we've got the vast majority of people vaccinated. We want to move to the lateral flow tests. People can do them at home. Simple, you don't have to send them off. Much cheaper to buy them. It's actually my colleagues at, it's very kind of them to put a picture of me. It's actually my colleagues at the Department of Health who are in charge of this. And I know that they are.
Well, you're the man who could unlock half-term, Mr. Shapps. You are the man.
I was going to say they're actually the men and women, and I know that they're very conscious of the half-term dates, and they'll be doing everything they can, I think, to try to make the switchover happen.
So can you say we're going to get there, Secretary of State?
Yeah, I say they will be working on this directly, and one of the issues I know that they've got to deal with is all of these private companies who've been producing PCR tests are having to change their production line, I guess, to the lateral flow devices, the ones which show you the results immediately. So I know that they're working hard with the testing industry to try to get that done on time, and we'll make further announcements as soon as we have the outcome of that.
Another cause for possibly the delay of getting fuel to the pumps could be the protests that we've seen in and around the M25 over the past 2 weeks or so. You and your colleague Home Secretary Priti Patel have pushed for new powers or new laws. What exactly are you seeking there?
Look, I think it is completely unacceptable. You're right, that will be causing distribution problems. It's also causing people problems with their businesses or to get around and see friends and family. It's totally wrong and unfair. It's counterproductive because the pollution gathers when you stop the traffic, and it's blinking dangerous as well. So, I've got no time for the way that the protesters are behaving. That's why I took out an injunction, or asked National Highways, who run the motorways, to do that the other night, and they got it. That means if they carry on with this behaviour, they can be sent to jail for contempt of court.
But is that a location thing? Is that, i.e., the M25, or is it just a general behaviour? Because you'll be aware there's something that was called police bail, which is now called pre-charge bail, which would allow me to be arrested and bailed that I cannot go near the M25 for the next 16 days or whatever.
Yeah, and your question's spot on. The problem is this injunction is very specific, which is absolutely right. That's how the injunctions work. Yes, we need additional powers because what's happened is the police were arresting these people, they charged them, and then they're back out protesting the next day or the day after. They don't have the powers to hold.
But what if they decide to sit at Heathrow? That injunction would not cover, for argument's sake, an airport, would it?
So it'd be slightly different where something's on private property compared with the national road network, slightly different laws may apply. Obviously, you've got a lot more security elements on a runway, but nonetheless, look, it's unacceptable. People are entitled to their opinions. We have a democratic system. As it so happens, the government is busily decarbonising, amongst other things, transport very quickly. In fact, these people aren't even protesting about carbon from transport. They're protesting about homes, living in homes which apparently are not themselves double glazed. So, I mean, I have no time for this. They're going about making people's lives a misery, and that's why I got the injunction. But yes, we need some additional powers, and we've got that in the crime and the policing bill.
Lastly, I've no idea if you are a football fan, but you are probably aware that as of next month, people who do attend games will have to show proof of double vaccination. You might not be aware that it is believed around 66% or two-thirds of Premier League players have not had vaccinations. Secretary of State, what would you say to those players?
I tell them this one simple, stunning fact. 99% of people who have died in hospital from coronavirus since January were either not vaccinated at all or haven't been fully vaccinated. 99 out of 100 people. Please get your vaccination, not just for yourself, but for the people you love around you.
As ever, good speaking with you. Thank you. Secretary of State for Transport Grant Shapps appearing here on LBC. 1 minute after 8 news is next.
On your radio, on Global Player, and
Play LBC.
leading Britain's conversation. This is LBC.
From Global's newsroom at 8 o'clock, the Transport Secretary Grant Shapps says drivers should carry on as normal after